Before you put on makeup, please exfoliate if you have this problem. Sometimes all you need is good exfoliation to get all that dead skin off. My favorite exfoliator is the Yo Glow from Wishful. This is from Huda Beauty herself, bitch! I especially like working it on and around my nose. Love this area right here. What do you guys think? Bye!
I'm gonna one-up this simple full face and make it affordable, starting with a face mist and sunscreen in one. If you're a beginner in makeup, you're probably only going to need a tiny bit of concealer, not foundation. I blend in the concealer only in the spots where I really need it, but if you want increased coverage, just add little dots wherever you think you need it and blend it out as much as you can. We don't want any cakey makeup here, okay? I find that cream contour works the best on all skin types. I like the look of a diffused bronzy look, not a harsh contour, so I'm going to blend that in generously throughout the cheek. Also, forget about the nose contour. All you need is a little bit of bronzer on top of the nose. Cream blush is the thing, okay? Light layers is the best way to get a seamless blended look, but you can always add as much as you want. A light coating of powder is going to give you a very blurred look without having to add too much cakiness to the face, especially if you have big pores like I do. Adding bronzing powder gives you that snatched look. Some more SPF. And this is what you get. If you want an instant brow lift, watch this. I only use 2 products and you can really see the difference. Starting with the 𝙬𝙤𝙧𝙚 Brow Gel. This is from Becky G's brand. I back comb, brush through, and then I use the bottle to roll up the product to set the brow. Glossier Brow Flick, which is virtually the only thing I use on my brows. So please tag Glossier. Not me crying at 𝙬𝙠𝙚 because I love it so much. The brows will not move the rest of the day. I love you guys, bye.
You got the floor.
Do I have the floor? Do I?
Yes, you do.
After the confrontation, Yolanda decided to show up to the recording studio and Abraham did not let her in. In fact, he kicked her out. Police believe that this is one of the events that triggered her into buying the gun in the first place. On March 30th, Yolanda checks into a 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙚 motel. That very night, Selena comes over at 11 p.m. and this is when Yolanda gives her the documents. And Selena goes home to Chris, her husband. But later on that night, Yolanda calls Selena and tells her that she had been raped in Mexico. Selena did not quite believe her, but she also didn't want to leave her hanging. But unfortunately, we all know that Selena decided to go by herself. In fact, Chris was still asleep in bed when Selena left the house. She picks up Yolanda in the morning and takes her straight to the hospital. The doctors at the hospital decide to run some tests on Yolanda since she claimed that she was raped, but they couldn't find anything because she wasn't raped. This is when Selena takes some of the nurses aside and tells her that she doesn't believe that she was raped and that her friend was making it all up. Selena drives Yolanda back to the motel. Because Yolanda has never spoken the truth about what actually happened, police can only predict that Selena was extremely emotional and angry at her during the ride back to the hotel. So let's just recap some of the things that Yolanda did. She embezzled $30,000 from the fan club. She hadn't even been sending the merchandise to the people who had signed up and paid the fees for the fan club. She was abusing and mistreating her employees at the boutique by threatening them, secretly recording them, and destroying designs for the boutique. On top of everything, she calls her in the middle of the night to tell her that she had been raped and that she needs to be taken to the hospital, only to find out that the rape never happened. Selena must have made it very clear that the relationship between them was over. Yolanda would have been panicking and grasping at straws. This is when Yolanda says they got to the hotel room and Selena took off their friendship ring. Yolanda, a couple of years back, had gifted Selena a friendship ring and they both wore the same ring. This is when Yolanda claims that she had the gun and that she grabbed it so that she could herself. Selena decides to turn around and exit the room. This is when Yolanda says that the gun went off in her hands. She claims that she ran after Selena to try to help her. Yolanda still claims that she never saw blood, therefore she didn't know that Selena had been shot. Norma Martinez was working at the motel that morning. She claims to have seen Yolanda running after Selena, pointing the gun at her, calling her a bitch. This is an eyewitness account, so they couldn't really prove that it had happened. If this is true, Yolanda knew that she had shot Selena, and she was running after her to shoot at her again. Selena had been shot in the shoulder, and the reason she died is because the bullet hit an artery. She was bleeding out extremely fast. According to eyewitness accounts, Yolanda then walked back into the room. She was not trying to help Selena. This is what happened to Selena. She gets shot in the back, she runs out of the room and runs straight into the lobby. This is when she says, Yolanda Saldívar, room 158, and then she passes out. While Selena Quintanilla is bleeding out on the hotel lobby, Yolanda is trying to figure out what to do. This is when a 9.5-hour standoff ensues with the police and Yolanda. This is where police believe that Yolanda got the idea to claim it was an accident. One of the negotiators that got on the phone with her told her that it's okay because it might have been an accident. Maybe the gun went off by mistake. This is when Yolanda says, yeah, it was a mistake. Before that comment, Yolanda had not claimed that. At this point, there's hundreds of people standing outside of the hotel asking Yolanda to come out of the car. Selena was pronounced dead an hour after she got to the hospital. 6 months later, on October 1995, Yolanda was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But she is up for parole March 2025. That's exactly 30 years after she killed Selena. While I was doing my research, I found an episode on Selena. Let me show you guys this clip because it actually disgusted me.
She trusted everybody and anybody. I don't think she ever met anybody that she didn't trust immediately and like immediately. And I think that probably was one of the reasons for her downfall.
Essentially, this man is victim blaming. How can he say that because Selena decided to trust Yolanda, it was her downfall? This is all Yolanda's fault. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give me a follow here and on Instagram. I love you guys. Bye.
Oh, heck no. No. Those girls are all boobs and no brains. I'm too busy in a library reading books with dust on them. Oh.
Then President Juarez declared May 5th the official anniversary of the Battle of Puebla, which we now know as Cinco de Mayo. Fast forward to the 1980s, something really interesting started happening. Beer companies started capitalizing on Cinco de Mayo. They started marketing their beer based around the holiday. And with that, it blew up. Americans started celebrating Cinco de Mayo everywhere, what we now know as Cinco de Mayo. It's a completely different and commercialized version of what Cinco de Mayo is. I'm sure if you went to any bar celebrating Cinco de Mayo, I think most people in there are not going to know why Cinco de Mayo is celebrated or that there was even a battle that happened in 1862. George W. Bush was the first president to celebrate Cinco de Mayo at the White House.
Cinco de Mayo is a day for special pride and remembrance for people on dos lados de la frontera. It's a reminder of the proud heritage of many Americans.
Nowadays, it seems like people assume that Cinco de Mayo is the Mexican Independence Day, which is completely wrong. That's in September. The U.S. made it into a consumerist holiday. People don't even know why they are celebrating it. And if you haven't followed me already, you should totally follow me, okay? Oh, I'm also a day late, but I was on a plane yesterday, so that's my excuse. Bye!
Oh my god, that's already starting to peel off. Damn. My brow game is strong, but I always use the same two products. So I'm going to try the Essence Cosmetics Fix It Like a Boss Transparent Brow Fixing Gel. It's very wet. I'll be back. Okay, this is what I don't like. Already starting to peel off. I guess I'll need to try this without foundation. My other one doesn't do that. It does work, but it doesn't have a strong hold. This is what the brow's like. Not bad, but it is peeling. I love everything else that Essence Cosmetics does except for this. I was accused of sexually harassing a man and I got fired for it. I am terrified of telling you guys this story because of who I'm gonna mention. The company that I worked for is very powerful and I think that they would sue me if I said names, but I'm gonna tell you guys anyway because what happened to me was really unfair. Back in 2018, I had just gotten married and my best friend was working at a company called S3 in New York City. At first, it was a really good company to work for because I was making a lot of money. The job was not incredibly hard. It wasn't really stressful or anything, so I actually really liked it. A little background on S3. It was a totally male-driven workplace. Majority of the men were middle-aged white men. My best friend and I were the only young females there, so as you guys can imagine, surrounded by all these older males, get stared at a lot. So my desk was next to someone called Justin, and Justin is the villain in this story. Justin and I sat next to each other and we became pretty friendly, work friends. I was not remotely interested in anything with him because I was married. We joked a lot. We talked about music. I'm a huge movie buff because I'm an actress, and he knew that. Specifically a movie called American Psycho with Christian Bale, which is one of my favorite movies. The joke was that he would be perfect in that role because he was living in New York, working in finance. My friend and some of the other people that worked there told me that ever since I had been hired, Justin was really friendly, in a good mood all the time. He would joke. Apparently, before I got there, he wasn't the joking type. He wasn't like happy or in a good mood. So that tells you a lot, right? I'm actually so nervous telling you guys this story because I'm mentioning names, but look at those brows. So I was very grateful for this job because it paid really well. To be honest, I just never knew what was coming. By the way, you guys, Justin knew that I was married. Like, we talked about my husband. One day I get a message from the guy who hired me at the job, and his name was Gabe. He was the manager. I get a text from Gabe and he's like, basically, don't come in today. We don't need you to come in today. I immediately froze and felt
sick to my stomach. Obviously that's weird, right? For your job to tell you that. And I even texted Gabe and said, what's wrong? He said nothing. Sorry guys, I had to turn on the AC because I'm starting to sweat. The following day, I'm fully expecting to go back into work because I went to work every single day. If I'm not mistaken, I get an email this time from Gabe saying not to come in. I immediately text Serena and I was like, what the heck? She said, just relax, it's okay, we don't know what's happening. And I was like, okay, fine. Later that day, she tells me if I could meet her in the park. We both had a bad feeling. She had a bad feeling, I had a bad feeling. And as soon as I see Serena, my best friend, she starts to cry. And then I start to cry. She wasn't alone. She was with Jason, who was somebody who worked at S3 as well. By the way, Jason did the exact same job Serena and I did and got paid a whole lot more than her and I did. A whole lot more. Which doesn't surprise me coming from white middle-aged men thinking that women should earn less than men. I think the first words out of my mouth were, what happened? And that's when she says, I don't know why they're firing you. We both cried. Her and Jason comforted me as much as they could. I went home. And when I get home, guess who I text? Because I'm trying to find out information. I'm trying to find out what happened, what went wrong. I text Justin. You're not gonna believe this, I just got fired. And I asked him, have you heard anything? Have you overheard any conversations about why I was fired? And guess what he says, you guys? Jesus Christ. Oh, if you ever need any financial help, let me know. I'm here for you. That's really kind of him. And he said no, that he hadn't heard anything. And I decided to believe him. I got an email from the company sending my severance letter. I emailed back and I think I said, why? Can I know why? Like, what did I do? They weren't telling me why. They weren't telling me anything. Is that even legal that you get fired and they don't tell you why? Months go by. I'm on my honeymoon. I didn't have my honeymoon right after I got married. I had it after. Serena calls me and she tells me, I finally found out what happened and why you were fired. And I remember her even saying, like, do you want me to tell you right now or do you want to like wait until you come back? And I was like, no, tell me right now, which is so sweet of her for just even considering my feelings because I was on my honeymoon and she didn't want to, you know, ruin anything for me. She tells me that one of the other girls that was working there overheard a conversation about how Justin had told the owner of the company, Justin told Bob I was offering him blowjobs when no one was around and that I had done it on several occasions. Listen, I know men get harassed in the workplace, they get sexually assaulted, but here are the facts. I have been harassed. I have been sexually assaulted. And that's happened on several occasions. I would never repeat that behavior onto somebody else. I would never, ever do that. If you're watching this and that's happened to you, I'm so sorry. Also, why would I do that in the workplace knowing that I could lose my job? Why would I ever do that? So what could Bob, the owner, do other than fire me? Nothing. He was gonna fire me. They fired me. They didn't ask me questions. There was no investigation. You know what made me so upset? The fact that these people, they thought that I was a predator. And there was no way for me to rectify that. There was no way for me to be like, hey, that's not true. I couldn't defend myself. I wasn't given the chance to do that. This girl gathered that Justin had very strong feelings for me, that he couldn't deal with it, and that the only thing that he could do was to get me fired so that I could be away from him because he had very strong feelings for me. What happened to me after I got fired was pretty bad. I would say I was even traumatized. I was so afraid. What could I have done wrong? It was easy to just fire me, throw me away, like I was nothing. No explanation. It's like someone pulled the floor from under you and you're just left falling and you can't grab onto anything. Learn to recognize red flags and just, I guess, don't be as friendly to men in the workplace. And if you have a story time like mine that you want to share, you can send it to me on Instagram here. And I love you guys so much. Take care of yourselves. Story time about how I was accused of sexually harassing my coworker. This is my story time. I did post this yesterday, but it was like 5 minutes long, so here we are. Back in 2018, I had just gotten married and my best friend was working at a company called S3 in New York City. I was so excited to get this job, you guys. I was so broke at the time. Before that, I had worked as everything. I was an assistant, maid, served at like 20 different restaurants, worked at the strip club, and I did a whole slew of other things. This job paid me $8,000 a month. It was amazing. Like, I thought I was set for life. The job was pretty simple and it was really stress-free. I had to make phone calls and sell a financial app, and I was pretty good at it. Like I said, my best friend got me this job and it was really nice because I got to hang out with her every single day at work. Now, my desk was next to somebody called Justin. Justin was one of the salespeople at the company. I heard from a few people that before I got there, Justin was not the friendliest. He wouldn't make jokes or laugh, but after I got there, his attitude completely changed. To be honest, I had fun with him. He was a great coworker, but of course, that was it. I didn't see him as anything else other than a coworker. He and I would make jokes all the time, talked about music and movies. He would talk to me about his dating life, and I would give him advice. This man either had really strong feelings for me, or he really hated me, because he ended up getting me fired. Part 2 is Story time about how I was accused of sexual harassment and I got fired for it. This is my personal story time, by the way. The villain of the story, named Justin, he and I got along really well, and I sat next to him every single day at work. By the way, Justin was the youngest guy out of the entire company. Everyone else was middle-aged white men, while me and my best friend are beautiful and young and gorgeous. As you can imagine, we got stared at a lot. To be honest, this didn't really bother me because I've been stared at a lot in life. But when you find out what happened, it's infuriating. Walking down the street doing this voiceover. This is how badly I want to post this. The owner of the company is Bob. Bob and I got along really well. You see, I thought I was taken seriously in this workplace. I thought that I had value. But of course, apparently to these older white men, I did not. Today I get home from work and I get a message from Gabe, my manager. I don't like Gabe. Gabe told me not to come into work. And the following day, he tells me not to come into work again. Can you see how this would freak anyone out? I had a really bad feeling. Serena had no idea what was going on. If she did, she would tell me. This girl had my back always. Part 3 will be up soon. Story time about how I was accused of sexually harassing my coworker and got fired for it. This is my personal story time. Well, when I was told for the second time not to come into work, I was completely freaked out. Serena, who got me the job, asked me to meet her at Central Park. I had a bad feeling. Can you guys believe that S3 asked my best friend to fire me? They didn't have the balls to do it themselves because they knew that what they were firing me for was completely unfair. I get to Central Park and Serena tells me that they fire me. By the way, another coworker was there. His name was Jason. By the way, Jason had the same job as Serena and I and got paid a lot more. Inequality does exist. Went into a depression. I was anxious, was afraid, didn't know what had happened. Emailed the company asking what happened and they didn't want to tell me. Anyway, a couple of months later, I find out that Justin had gotten me fired. He told the boss that I was offering him blowjobs. By the way, when I got fired, Justin offered me financial help, pretended to be my friend. What an asshole. October of that same year, he performed the song in Culiacan live. He projected an image of 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙚 in the background the entire time. As you can
If the road leads to you, I follow it wherever it goes. Whenever I'm feeling blue, I bottle it so nobody knows how I feel when I walk through the crowd. I'm on my way, I'm on my way. I can't erase the memories of our past. They keep me running back to you. I can't escape the mistakes I've made. Will you catch me when I finally fall through? Not every story ends the same. How do I fix the mess I've made? If I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. If the world goes black, I'll keep you next to me.
got pregnant off a first date and lied to my ex and told him it was his baby. Am I wrong for this? Welcome to The Confessional, a series where you guys send me your confessions through here and I tell them here on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube so that you can get some real advice. My ex broke up with me last year for cheating on him. Very bad start. He caught me making out with the coworker after work. Girl, you sound messy as hell. Of course, I begged him to stay with me, but he was not taking me back. After he broke up with me, I was super happy though. It meant I could finally hook up with guys again. I felt free and I started hoeing out. Okay. The breakup was pretty bad though on my end. Unfortunately, I had just gotten fired from my job and he was the only person helping me pay for my rent. Girl, you cheated on a man that helped you pay for your rent? I started working at a strip club when I was 18 years old and my parents had kicked me out. By the time I met him, I got fired from the strip club for fighting too much with all the other dancers. When I got fired from the strip club, I only had about $200 in my savings. My boyfriend let me live in his apartment rent-free for 6 months. I basically became a stay-at-home girlfriend and I would cook his meals, do his laundry, clean his apartment. He works in tech and makes a lot of money, so for him, this was no issue. The more I tell this story, the more ungrateful I sound. I swear I'm a good person. That's when my ex got me a job at the company that he worked for. Began as an assistant and I was earning really good money. That's when I met a guy at the company. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, that's so funny. Unfortunately, we were very attracted to each other and I couldn't resist. So your poor boyfriend at this point has gotten you a job, let you live in his apartment rent-free for 6 months. Treated you like a queen apparently, so you go and cheat on him, okay? We started hooking up in his car, but really wasn't anything serious. I was planning on doing a whole cut crease. Fast forward to when he caught me cheating. He kicked me out of his house the very same day. I didn't even have a suitcase, so I had to put everything in trash bags. So embarrassing. I ended up sneaking into my own house and sleeping in my old bedroom without my parents noticing. Luckily, my ex did not get me fired from the job and I was able to save some money. After a full week of crying for my ex, I decided to sign up for some dating apps. The first few dates were horrible. The first guy asked me to split a bill, and the second one pressured me into doing it. He so didn't have to, like, at all. 2 months later, my period is super late, but I knew that I had only done it with one of the guys that I had been on a date with in the past 2 months. I went to get a pregnancy test and it came out positive. I immediately called the guy that got me pregnant and he denied everything. By the way, this is the guy that pressured me into doing it. That's when I thought I should just tell my ex that I'm pregnant and make him believe it's his baby. And essentially that's exactly what I did. I called my ex crying and I told him that I needed to see him immediately. His reaction was not at all what I expected. He actually started to cry and said that he would help me out. At this point, he hadn't even asked if the baby was his. He hasn't mentioned a paternity test and he completely blindly believes me. I moved back into his apartment, he gave me a debit card and a credit card, and we're happier than ever. I sometimes feel like an asshole for doing this, but I know that there was no way I could raise that kid on my own. Do you think I'm wrong for this? I think this is a very complicated situation and I completely understand that you are afraid and that you don't want the baby to be without a dad because of course that's horrible. I grew up without a father, but lying to your ex is just on a whole other level. He didn't ask you if the baby was his and he was telling you that he was willing to help you. It sounds to me like maybe the lie wasn't even necessary. Maybe he would have offered to help you anyway. And if you have an update, send it to me. I love you guys. Bye.